you're painting your surface with. So with this particular background that I want to show you, and also using water-based paints, they may not stick, the stencils might not stick as well if you have some kind of oily surface. Now, having said that, I'm going to be applying this wax. So when I thought about this, I thought, well, we better be careful where we apply it. I want some weathered look on here, and then I'm going to paint over it. And in those areas where I've applied the wax, it's going to be removed and reveal this nice dark timber. I've got just some beautiful beeswax. Smells like beeswax. It's a really nice smell. Fusion does have some beeswax. If you do want my Fusion code, it's I Restore Stuff as well also. And the link is right there in the description of the live as well. So I'm just going to put this beeswax, apply it to mainly the edge areas, as those would, because the edges would be mostly the areas on a rustic board where you would have some weathering and you know, some worn looks. So I'm adding just beeswax. Could add hemp oil is another one which also reacts differently. And I'm just going to be adding it in little bits and pieces, but I don't want to add any wax to the center just in case I don't want my transfer not to stick there. So that's what I'm doing for this. A white color, I'm just using Fusion's Raw Silk. So we'll go through the steps again. I've painted my board in this brown color, Oakham. I just used a tester pot and just brushed that on. On those edges where I've applied the wax, you can see a bit of a shimmery surface. Those are going to look quite rustic after we've painted our white. So I'm just grabbing a whole bunch of paint and we're just laying it on the surface, and you may see that the areas on the ends, I'm going to have to go, I'll go over it after my live and do the edges because the edges are a bit fiddly, so I'll just leave that till later. And I'm just adding fairly liberally the white paint. And I want to lay it on. I don't want to push the brush too much on the surface because, and you'll notice where the wax is, it's even starting to resist the paint right at the top there. So that's what happens when water-based paint goes over the top of an oil or a wax. It will start to bead. So we don't want that to happen in the middle where we want to put our transfer on, because that's where we want it to be nice and matte and flat, and we just want it to be paint. Okay, it's a little noisy here, but I will show you those edges where I've put the wax resist in between the brown paint layer. You can see it beading up around the edges. So now we've got a nice, and this is quite rough because the plywood had a very rough finish. It's sort of all pressed together board. And I'm just going to grab a piece of sandpaper. Now I don't remember, oh, it's 180 grit. And we'll see how we go. We may want to put a second coat of paint on that if you don't want to see so much brown through there. We've got still brown on the edges, but where we've added that resist layer, if I didn't have the wax on there, when I'm sanding, I could possibly go back right through to the raw wood, and I would like the darker brown to show through to create that weathered look. So here we go, just gently sanding back, and in those areas where I have had the wax, you can see that it's gone now back to, oops, there we go, lots more's come off. Everywhere I've had the wax, it's come off to the brown look. So we're creating a bit of a weathered look on our board. So I'll show you that. See the weathered look there? And that's called a resist, creating a wax resist method. I'm just sanding all over it, and you can see where the grain was raised, it's even got some fleck. Even though I didn't add wax in those bits there, it's adding a little bit of fleckiness. Okay, so we've done this side here. You can see nice weathered look. We haven't done this side here. You can just see a little bit of beading where the wax is underneath. You can do this kind of technique on pieces of furniture, other types of home decor. It doesn't just have to be for signboards. I've used this weathering technique to make piece of furniture look old and worn. And weathered. Okay, so going down here, so I noticed where I put the wax was mainly around the edges and the corners. So there's a nice big chunky bits come off down there. And when I seal this properly at the end, you'll see that'll really show up nicely as a really lovely weathered piece. Let's see if I've got much more up in this corner. Yep, you could do another little bit up here. So this is how you can create the weathered look yourself. I could do the sides as well. I just thought I'd do the top for now. Oh, there's another big chunk coming off. It depends how thick you put the wax on underneath there as to how much will come off on that surface. I'm really happy with how that's turning out. So how do you like that technique? Have you tried that before? Let me know in the comments.